hostility and anger is for the purpose of protecting something.
Mm-hmm.
And protecting one's Jewishness and one's Jewish identity is valid, important, and I believe from God. It's just that without God and without the scriptures, people can't be expected to protect it in a way that is aligned with reality.
What's up, friends? Have you ever wondered why Jewish people have been resistant and even hostile towards Jesus? Are there objections based on reality, or has there been a misunderstanding of who Jesus really was and is? Today, my guest, Ruth Rosen, writer and author with a degree in biblical studies from Biola College, will be talking about this ancient and modern rejection of our Messiah, Jesus, and how this has been changing over the course of the centuries. Hey, Ruth, it's been great having you here. I'm so happy to be talking with you here on the channel.
Thanks, Jeff. It's been great being with you too.
Yeah, thanks. So today's topic is a charged yet fascinating one. Ruth, you've been around Jewish believers in Jesus for your entire life, and you've also witnessed a lot of hostility towards Jesus by our Jewish people. So coming from your background and experience, what is it about Jesus that causes so much tension between the Jewish people that do believe in Jesus and those that don't? And before you get into this topic, if you haven't seen Ruth's testimony, go check it out. It's here on the channel. So Ruth, what have you witnessed, and how have you seen things change over time in today's modern world?
That's an interesting question. And the editor in me wants to say I probably might have to tweak that question a little bit to give a meaningful answer, because
Go for it.
I can't say that I've seen a lot of change in how our people see or react to Jesus himself. I think the reactions that I have seen are reactions to being Jewish and believing in him.
Mm-hmm.
And also a little bit of a disclaimer is that, my changes in, what I've done with Jews for Jesus over the years, and also the fact that, I'm working part-time now. I had my early years in Jews for Jesus were out on the streets and, meeting people who didn't know me, who I didn't know, and what their reactions were. And then as I began to come into the writing and the editing, I saw a lot of articles that were written about Jews for Jesus. And so
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say that many people at all had hostility toward Jesus himself. I think it would be a very small minority of maybe some Haredim, maybe some ultra-Orthodox who actually heard stories that are kind of extra biblical accounts of Jesus and, very kind of mythological stuff, almost like fairy tales, like that, well, Jesus was able to do miracles because he stole the holy name of God, and he did this and he did that and he did the other thing. But most Jewish people never heard, much less believed that. So it hasn't really, in my experience, been hostility to Jesus himself.
Rather faith in Jesus.
Rather faith in him. That's in two camps, those who believe in him and have done terrible things to our people, and then those Jewish people who have kind of joined that camp and are now self-hating or whatever. That was my early experience, and I think that a lot of Jewish people probably still feel that way today, but not as many. And I think that mixed in with that is the survival instinct that God has planted in our people is like epic. God promised that the Jewish people would not die out, as a people. And even Jewish agnostics or atheists still have this, this very strong identity, which I believe is God. So anything that would threaten that identity, then, when people are angry, it's because they're wanting to protect something. So if people are angry about faith in Jesus, it's usually because they want to protect their Jewishness or their Jewish identity that they feel is threatened by.
Yeah.
And the reason why people feel threatened is in part because of things that were done in his name, but also in part because who's to say what it means to be Jewish? And the more latitude and the more leniency there is in what you don't have to believe or what you don't have to do to be Jewish, there needs to be a line of demarcation. And I think that for decades, believing in Jesus was that line of demarcation. And I think that younger generations are questioning that line of demarcation, just as every other line of demarcation is being questioned.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly as people are getting to know, I mean, Jews for Jesus, we still have people that go out in public because we don't want the only people that hear about Jesus to be the ones that we get to know personally. That would be unfair. But I think that a lot more of what we do is in community with people who know us and are not able to so easily believe, prejudged things about what it means to be Jewish and believe in Jesus when you've got a relationship with a person who clearly doesn't fit the stereotype.
Yeah. Yeah. I like what you said about that line of demarcation. I do a lot of street, I don't want to call it ministry. I mean, I love talking to people like you. I love engaging in conversation and making relationships. And so I go out on the streets. We have this other channel called So Be It. And we go on the streets and we interview people and talk to them about the questions that are on their hearts. And I've found that when we talk to a lot of people about Jesus in today's society, they're not so hostile towards the idea, because in a postmodern mindset, well, everybody can believe in whatever they want as long as you're not hurting anyone else. And everybody is right in their own way and everybody has their own truth. So if that's what makes you happy, go for it and do it. And then I got one comment by someone that was really, really interesting. It was fascinating. And to your point, he said, don't you know that being Jewish means not believing in Jesus? And I knew that was in the minds of people, but I'd never heard somebody actually say it to me before, that a Jew is a Jew because he doesn't believe in Jesus. And I thought, wow, let's open up our Hebrew scriptures and see what being a Jew means. And it's interesting what some people hold on to.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's always, even when we do still encounter hostility, I think it's helpful to remember that hostility and anger is for the purpose of protecting something.
Mm-hmm.
And protecting one's Jewishness and one's Jewish identity is valid, important, and I believe from God. It's just that without God and without the scriptures, people can't be expected to protect it in a way that is aligned with reality.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. So, thank you for sharing that, Ruth. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of your wisdom. And is it okay if I show your book?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, Ruth is an amazing writer, very captivating, and she wrote a book called The Controversy: The Unlikely Story of Moshe Rosen and the Founding of Jews for Jesus. I started reading this book and I immediately was taken in by it. So check it out, called To Controversy by Ruth Rosen. Ruth, thank you for being here. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. And yeah. And if you haven't seen Ruth's videos, go check them out here on the channel. So I hope you've enjoyed our series with Ruth Rosen. To find out more about Ruth and her work, click on the link below in the description and stay tuned for more conversations with Jewish believers in Jesus. To find out more about Jews for Jesus, you can visit us and even chat with us anonymously at our website at jewsforjesus.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And may you all find hope, peace, and love in our Messiah, Yeshua.